A very warm welcome to Daily Dispatch powered by HSBC. I'm Priya Sheth, and joining me on this very interesting conversation is a host of experts who are going to be talking about social commerce. I have with me Mr. Alok Chawla from Kiko Live and Surendra Mehta from DealShare. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us today. I want to first talk a little bit about the whole social commerce industry. It's been growing massively. We've been seeing huge amounts of traction over the last couple of months, specifically in the pandemic sector. So, I want to talk a little bit to you, Mr. Alok, to talk a little bit about how this has grown over the last couple of months and what kind of, trajectory do you see this taking?
Thinking about projections that various studies have already shown us, social commerce is expected to reach about $20 billion in India by 2025 and about $70 billion by 2030. And if you look at global statistics, about 41% of internet users make some purchases or at least intend to make some purchases using some kind of social media platform or social influence. In India, we are still quite nascent, but then you are looking at about 250 million users who are actively using some kind of social media or other. And the new wave of buyers, which is typically coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities, they are adopting social commerce faster, influencer-led, and commerce where recommendation based or suggestion based purchases are on the rise in smaller towns. In fact, we've seen many large players scale up rapidly in the last few months, and I guess Meesho is something everybody knows about. So in our business in Kiko, as we're seeing very huge adoption from influencers who are coming on our platform, making live shows. The amount of intent that we are seeing and the amount of click-throughs we are seeing is much higher than traditional e-commerce. We see as high as 3% users on a live show clicking through to view the product and show an intent for purchase, which in traditional commerce, say even on an intent-based commerce, when you go and search for products, say on an Amazon or Flipkart, the click-through rate to the final checkout cart would be as low as 1%.
Right. Thanks for that, Mr. Chawla. I want to come to you, Mr. Mehta, to talk a little bit about, how DealShare's journey has been over the last couple of months, because as Chawla was mentioning, there's been a huge amount of growth, specifically in social commerce amid this pandemic. So tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, I think like you already know that social commerce is really at the center or is the engine of growth now in the e-commerce space. We are basically witnessing huge growth patterns. I mean, to the tune of 20% month-on-month growth, both in terms of transacting users, active users, and as well as our gross revenue. So this kind of growth is unprecedented in the e-commerce space. We are basically growing really rapidly. This model is the right model now, and for Mass India. Mass India is finally. For years we have seen the whole adoption as being a challenge in the e-commerce space, how mass market India would adopt. And finally, I think this social commerce model is what people are relating to. We are seeing millions of, so already we have close to 15 million ever installed base. Our monthly active user base is close to 6 million now. And that's a massive number, and it is going at 20% month on month. Like I said, we are basically close to $1 billion revenue, gross revenue run rate now, and I think this is definitely going to grow further. Pandemic definitely gave an initial push to the whole model, but what I am seeing now is a large-scale adoption trend, with social commerce being at the at the head of the growth, and that becomes the core engine for e-commerce growth now.
Right. Thanks for that, Mr. Mehta. I want to come to you, Mr. Chawla, to talk a little bit about what would be the key trends that you see in 2022. How do you see the space evolving going forward?
One of the key areas that we're seeing evolving is that creators have started selling. So just rewinding back about 2 years when TikTok came in and actually generated the creator economy and the influencer economy in India, most of the influencers and creators depended on secondary revenues to make, secondary ways to make money. So they used to create and get popularity, but the only way they could make money was probably get views and get paid for views, or they used to get invited as chief guests in some functions and they used to cut ribbons and make money. Uh, Now, that evolution, and we're pretty much following the trend as it has happened in China. That these influencers are now, they've learned that their followers are willing to take their advice on making key purchases. So they're coming and talking about products now. And a lot of movement is happening, especially in the apparel and cosmetics makeup space. We're seeing a lot of influencers coming in talking about products here. Another category which we are seeing taking off is electronics. A lot of unboxing videos of mobile phones, headsets, earphones, and so on are seeing traction in terms of people watching their influencers, people who they follow, telling them about the product, demonstrating it live, and recommending them, and seeing conversion of those products. And then the next level of evolution also we've started seeing where now brands have started coming and directly tying up with these influencers and telling them officially or unofficially to promote their products on multiple live selling platforms. So I mean, we are pretty much following the same trajectory that China has seen, and in China the numbers are that about uh, roughly 40% of 41% of users, as I said earlier, have made some purchase on social platforms, and 13% of total e-commerce sales in China right now comes from social commerce. So we were pretty much on that trajectory.
Mr. Chawla, I believe you raised some funds a couple of months ago, and want to understand what the funds have been utilized for. Is there requirement for more funds? What's the way forward?
So yeah, we just recently closed a $1 million round. It's just about 3 months ago. We will probably be looking at raising funds again in the next months or so to kind of hyperscale and speed up our growth. Right now, the funds are obviously being used, to acquire. But it's a lot of marketing activity. Of course, tech is a very big cost because we are a live commerce platform. So, we are building tech where millions of people can actually do live calls with each other, integrated with deliveries, integrated with payments, and all happens, over thousands of transactions happening simultaneously. But at the same time, we are now going on ground, activating retailers to come online. Because we see that the biggest growth in social commerce is going to come when the smallest retailer, the smallest seller can go online and speak to his customers and influence them to make a purchase. And then you're talking about 60 to 70 million such shops in the country. And the just taking a step back to your previous question. So COVID has played a very big role also for these small retailers, because there was a time before 2020 when these retailers wouldn't have thought of doing anything online, selling online, doing any kind of social or e-commerce. And now they've seen that, they actually had lockdowns, they couldn't do business, they saw their business being taken away by online platforms. And now each one of them is looking for some or the other online option to sell. And now their minds are opened up into experimenting, into trying. So we are going to see a wave of, millions of sellers who will come, and it's easier for them to sell socially, because to come online and talk and sell as if they're selling in the shop is much easier for a small shop than to actually build up a complex catalog and then to maintain inventory on the back.
Right. Mr. Meena, I was asking you, what would be DealShare's focus areas going forward? If you could tell us a little bit about what kind of strategy you would be implementing in 2022.
Yeah, basically, today we are already present in 300 cities and towns with our own operations. And on top of that, we have also, our bigger categories are grocery and household essentials. So where we do our own fulfillment and operations. So with that model, we are present in 10 states, 300 cities and towns. And we are very confident of this model. And we are going to scale this up across the whole country. So by the end of this year, we expect us to be present in, let's say, 20 states, so almost all India presence, barring a few states, and going further deeper into many cities and towns. So that's one part of the strategy. And on top of that, the same customer who is buying grocery and essential products from us we will all top up with an inventory-less model for the long tail of categories like fashion, electronics, and all of that. So that experiment is already started. So a combination of these two, we believe that for the middle income household, which we are targeting, all needs would get basically be catered from our platform itself. So that's at the core. And on top of that, I think we will also start creating a network of physical touch points. So let's say dukans who will do the last mile deliveries even closer to the customer point. So these are the three things that we'll be focusing on.
Right. I also want to ask you, Mr. Mehta, in terms of investments going forward, what is the kind of investment that you require to pump up and to grow aggressively? Because these seem to be some aggressive growth plans that you've just started out.
Yeah. So I think so. Our model actually from an EBITDA burn, it is very, very low. So we don't burn much on basically OPEX and other EBITDA elements. So most of the investments that we would do would get into one, creation of physical warehouse or fulfillment infrastructure, which is basically expanding into various geographies, opening up warehouses, and doing our last mile setup and all of that. Then a big part of the investment would go into creation of cutting edge technology, whether it is on the basically demand aggregation side, where we deploy very differentiated technology to use social modes of bringing consumers at very low CAC. Our CACs are like 1/10 of classical e-commerce. So and at the core of it is technology innovation. So there we would basically invest in deep tech teams. And the third part of the investment would go into creation of the whole logistics technology. So the backend, because it is a huge network of today we already have 100 warehouses. By the end of this year, we might get into 300, 400 warehouses. So to create a network which combines all of these warehouses, and essentially optimize the whole logistics movement of a packet is where a lot of technology investment will be required. So these creation of infrastructure on basically the fulfillment side and technology are the first two things.
Right. Mr. Chawla, I want to talk a little bit to both of you about what the future of social commerce in India is going to be. So tell us a little bit, in two brief points, what do you think the future of social commerce is going to be?
The future of social commerce is pretty much going to be 50% or more of the total e-commerce business eventually by 2030. So just to put it in perspective, the Gen X and the millennials, they are the ones who are adopting social influencer and live commerce more than the older generation. So as you see, these youngsters and the incoming workforce getting into the population, you will see higher percentages of commerce coming from these set of people, and as they grow older, the percentages will rise, which is why the projections also all talk about the year 2030, because now all of these people will be the major population in the workforce.
Thanks, Mr. Chawla. Coming to you, Mr. Mehta, what do you think would be the future of social commerce? 2 quick points from you.
So I think the first one, of course, is that social commerce will basically be able to organize a lot of Indian retail, which till now had remained unorganized with the traditional trade. And this is the real model which will take it forward. Social commerce is finally going to also make e-commerce viable for the country. Now, the big differentiators that we are creating in the ecosystem is that, one, we are bringing in high quality supply at low price for the consumer. So that's part one. Second, the CACs are very low in social commerce. So that reduces your marketing expenditure, which has been a big problem on the e-commerce space. And the third is about huge densification and hence ability to fulfill at low cost. So where your fulfillment costs go down. So when you have a differentiated supply given to the consumers, which creates value for them, combined with, let's say, low cost of acquisition and reacquisition and traffic, and then finally low fulfillment cost. This makes the whole model much more financially and economically viable than the earlier e-commerce model. So I think that is going to be a very important part.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure speaking to the two of you, and thanks so much for your lovely insights.